Bring a bit of zen to your space with one design detail. It is a beautifully potted orchid. This is an accessory likely seen on the pages of your favorite home decor magazine. The graceful, soft lines and the long bloom time make it like a bouquet of fresh flowers, really, yet it can be long-lasting like a houseplant. Interior designer Amy DeMik is here to educate us on how to use the humble, beautiful orchid. It's great to see you, my friend.
It's nice to be here.
And as a decorating accessory, I think maybe the orchid is overlooked, not often placed in that category. You call it one of your favorites.
It is. It's one of those kind of timeless, chic statements that you can add to a space, whether your style is kind of the more traditional orchid style or not.
So the orchid itself can transform to kind of meet you at your design aesthetic?
Absolutely.
Is that fair to say? Show us some of your favorites.
Okay, so I went and found a few orchids. Some of them are silk, most of them are real.
People are shocked in the studio today. They're saying these are fake, right? And Amy's like, no. You even went through some of your favorite design magazines and pulled some inspiration photos just to show how beautifully this can be placed in a setting. Do you think that it could be the statement, or is it the subtle kind of pop in the background? A
little bit of both.
Okay.
Something like this, you know, blue and white chinoiserie bowl is a bold statement, and that's kind of the traditional orchid planter that you would be used to seeing in those kind of bold pops of color settings. But you can take the orchid and change out what type of bowl or planter you want to put it in, and then all of a sudden it feels at home, like if you use a dough bowl or a shell or something that's a little bit more current in terms of, you know, what's hot now in trends, then all of a sudden the orchid still adds that kind of little chic, high-end touch, but in your own style and in your own, vibe. How does it behave as a house plant? So it kind of gets a bad rap. People think it's tricky. It does have its own maintenance. Well, actually, I think there are several high-profile gardeners who say that it's actually not as high maintenance as other house plants. But because we've gotten used to, watering all the time and taking care of other house plants as a normal upkeep, we almost don't know how to really take care of an orchid. But it has a low maintenance as far as you only really water it once a week, sometimes once in 10 days. Oh, wow. These are Phalaenopsis orchids. They actually aren't planted in the ground. So they, in their natural environment, they would grow in the air on trees. And so you can even see some of these little
So I've been overthinking it then.
Roots are popping out because they want the air. They don't necessarily want to be buried in dirt. And so when you plant them, you use other things like bark and moss to plant them. And so it stays nice and arid. They can bloom for 2 to 3 months at a time. Oh, wow. And then what I like to do, which maybe there are husbands out there that don't appreciate this, but I swap my, when they're not in bloom anymore, I take them out of the arrangements, put them in the bathroom, and I take care of them in the bathroom. It's nice and warm and humid, and nice ambient, indirect light in there. And then I just keep swapping them out every few months, one for each other, so that when one goes dormant, the other one's blooming. And I think that that's kind of the best bang for your buck as far as a $6.99 investment. There are places where they'll be $20, $30, $40, $100. Some of the faux arrangements that are out there are $200, $300. Wow. So for a $6.99 investment to be able to kind of swap it out and have a little flexibility, I think it makes for a great houseplant.
You have some high-end inspiration pictures you pulled for us to kind of help us aspire to what this plant can be and can do for our space. And you talked about the rotation. You say in this case it can be worth it just for the impact you get in your home.
Absolutely. I think it just makes this creative, stunning centerpiece, or it can be a backdrop on a sofa table, in an entry table, in a bookshelf. You can tuck one up there, and because you don't have to water it so frequently, you're not as worried about that.
And the height, it gives such great height and great movement, kind of droops and curves. Your favorite way to play it is to recontain. You talked about the vessel being key and how this comes forward as far as aesthetic design. Show us a few that you've done here in studio.
Okay, so this one here is recontained. Basically popped it out of its store-bought pot. Okay. You can either pop it out or keep it in the store-bought pot. Because this has quite a droop to it, I kept it in the pot. Okay. This is nice also to keep it in the store-bought pot so that for drainage, most orchid, whoops, there goes the bark. Most orchid containers will have holes in them for drainage, because if you just let it sit in water, the roots will rot and they won't be able to have that air that they need.
So drainage is important.
So you can leave it, you can either take it out of this and put that in the bark, or you can leave it for stability in the store-bought pot too, and plant it in that way. If you're going to pop it out and not use the store-bought pot, you basically will kind of deconstruct here.
Okay.
You can put it in the bowl, and for stability, I used floral foam to kind of prop it up and keep it without it being something that will cluster if there is still some drainage.
So the advantage, like you said, of keeping it in the pot is the drainage.
Yep. And then you layer in bark and all different types of moss. The orchid moss, it's actually a sphagnum moss.
So the type of moss matters.
If you're repotting and planting, yes. That you should use this orchid moss. You can either use it like this, or you can put it in water and then work that into the mix too. And it's basically this very non-fussy mixture of moss and bark. Because again, the orchids grow on trees and they don't need soil.
They don't need a lot. I love looking over the way your design talent has brought together the vessel with the plant, because I mean here, this container totally complements the bend and the wave and the movement of the plant we were talking about. And it is fun to see aesthetically how it can change style to style. You've grouped a couple.
I have.
Which is fun.
This is my favorite grouping. If you have a large bowl, I love to go ahead and group them in threes. Even if you're totally intimidated by like the long-term, if you feel like it's a commitment to an orchid, and you think, I'm having this big thing at my house, I want to have something, you know, that looks like
I've got this production of flowers coming from the bathroom to the living room.
Yeah, I know. If you're intimidated by that, and you really just say to yourself, I'm having, I need a floral arrangement, this is actually less expensive if you already have the bowl. It's less expensive than going and buying fresh cut flowers.
I mean, it's $6.99.
These are $6.99 a piece. And then you basically pop them out again. You can take them out completely. But I like to actually keep them in for drainage. And then again, you're going to want to place them in a triangle. I love using threes. It's kind of that universal design triad, I guess you could say.
Yeah, we don't know why it works, but our eyes love it, right? That odd number.
So play with it a little bit. Get used to how your stems and your leaves are fanning out. And create a nice little cluster for them.
Pretty, Amy.
I also like when the blooms are all facing in the same direction. And then you can do that. Now there are people that have devoted their whole lives into replanting and staking them, but I like to just leave it like that. Then you take your bark and you fill the bowl. Some people like to also use styrofoam at the bottom of the bowl. There's a well-known household diva, Martha, loves to use newspaper.
Oh, Miss Martha.
So she uses newspaper in the bottom of hers. But I just like to layer the bark. Put the bark all around and then use decorative moss.
To fill it in. We're out of time, but really quickly in 30 seconds, tell us what to look for in a good orchid if we're shopping the aisle.
Look for multiple blooms. Look for blooms that haven't blossomed yet. And then this one down here on the end is our faux. You can really tell because of the color of the stem.
See, I wouldn't have been able to unless you pointed out that stem color. They really have come a long way, those faux silks,
But we use the same premise of put them in the three, fan out the faux leaves here. And you can, you know, create the same high-end look.
Make it work. Well, you are always so great about sharing your expertise, your design talent with us, and I know with clients. Where can people connect with you?
The best place to reach me really is Instagram. So I'm at Amy Sage DeMik. And I share projects that I'm working with and other, you know, fun design ideas.
So. You're great at what you do, and I think this is one project that a lot of people will be taking on in the coming weeks, right? As summer starts to fade and we still want that fresh feel in our home. Thank you so much.
Thanks, bro.